We had the golden era of wrestling. We had the attitude era. We had the ruthless aggression era. And we had the reality era. Now we have the injury era. It seems like nowadays everybody is getting injured. Well, Bray Wyatt is no different. Now on the Italian tour in Italy, Bray Wyatt actually suffered an injury to his right calf muscle Wednesday night in Milan, Italy. Now it's reported that Wyatt is not going to be at Monday Night Raw and is not going to be at SmackDown on Tuesday either. He was scheduled to headline various events on the tour against Roman Reigns. And if you saw the end of Monday Night Raw, you saw they were pushing Bray Wyatt. He was in the main event, blah, 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 blah. Well, it looks like Bray Wyatt is going to be out for the foreseeable future until he gets back to the United States, and we should know how long he will need to recover. Prior to his calf injury, Wyatt was already dealing with a back injury, and this does not sound good for the Wyatt family, and it doesn't sound good for them at all. I mean, we ended Monday Night Raw with Bray Wyatt being the guy who was standing tall with Roman Reigns and blah, blah, blah. And it could lead you to think that there was going to be a Roman Reigns Bray Wyatt match coming up at the pay-per-view, which it should have looked like AJ taking on Roman Reigns, but I don't know why they went this route. But that's the way they went with it, so we'll continue on going on here. So what I'm looking at is Bray Wyatt being out for the foreseeable future. And that kind of stinks because, again, it seems like the time where there are so many injuries going on in the WWE. I mean, you have Tyson Kidd who got injured so many times that he's probably not even coming back from what I know and what I hear. That's rumors on that. Just so many injuries, Randy Orton being out. Like, you just think of like all the guys that have gotten injured, Seth Rollins, John Cena, all happening at the same time. And now they are going to their NXT, which is good that they're going down to NXT and pulling some of that talent, because that is what the developmental system is for. It's for bringing those guys up when the time is ready. I mean, now we have those injuries where we have these injuries and then spots actually get open on the main roster. I mean, if you watch the Randy Orton DVD, he was talking about how wrestlers would AOP, which is accidentally on purpose. So what you do is you accidentally hurt somebody, and then there's a spot open, and then you can take their spot. Woo, yeah. What a great life professional wrestling is, right? Just being, just taking somebody's spot after you injure them. But it's a dog-eat-dog world, I guess, in the WWE. At least it was at points. I don't know how it is anymore. I'm sure it's still like that. You just don't hear about it a lot, but it's a very, very different trying time where we're getting a lot of injuries in the WWE, and it's, I don't know, you listen to some wrestlers talk, and I think it was on the Stone Cold podcast, it might have been somewhere else. I think it was Stone Cold and X-Pac were talking about, what do you think of the styles of the Attitude Era versus today? And X-Pac was like, wow, with all the injury and medical tests that they do now in the WWE, I don't think a lot of us would be able to wrestle during the Attitude Era. If they had the policy today and they implemented that in the Attitude Era, I don't think that a lot of those guys would wrestle because we were so beat up, we had concussions, all this stuff, but we went out there and wrestled and we fought through it. And that's the thing now where WWE is like, all right, well, we have to protect our stars. We don't want them to get hurt. And the careers of these guys, it seems like their longevity is going down. And is it due to that fast-paced action? Probably. Is it due to the high spots? Probably. But we're at a different time where fans get bored easily and you need that instant access. I mean, you have guys like a Sami Zayn who wrestles at NXT and then he wrestles at Mania, and then if they do any tapings and Monday Night Raw, all that stuff. So he's wrestling all weekend and they're doing live events all the time. And what it seems to me, and what I'm grasping from all of this, is it seems that live events are where their stars are getting injured. And you've seen it here and there, and you've seen it many a times where a star will, let's take Seth Rollins, for example. He did a buckle powerbomb or a powerbomb sunset flip, and he tweaked his leg, and he had to be out of action. So it's down to that live event schedule. And even like, I see a lot of these guys wrestling, like even Dean Ambrose, right? I saw Dean Ambrose, and this is a guy who can take all the punishment and all the pain, and he's going to be beaten and broken up like Mick Foley when he gets to his old age, I think. But Here's a guy who is wrestling on SmackDown. Not saying that SmackDown isn't a great show, but it's just not a top show, and it's not something you should be doing before WrestleMania. So SmackDown, he's wrestling, he dives to the outside, and I don't think that we should be having those high-risk maneuvers when you're doing that. And even it's not even the high-risk maneuvers. I just don't think there should be a lot of, if you're going to have a star, right? If you're going to have a star who's going to be the face of the company, I know that you need to have him wrestle as much as possible. You need to get his face out there as much as possible, but you don't want the guy to get injured. That's the biggest thing that I'm seeing here, is that there's a lot of guys who are going out there, they're wrestling on these live events, and they're getting injured, and it's taking away from their big pushes, their big matches that they have. I hate to see things like Bray Wyatt getting injured when he's going to get a push in the main events. He main evented Raw. You could think he's going to be main eventing. I almost thought it was going to be Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, and AJ Styles triple threat at the next pay-per-view, but as the injury comes in and he gets hurt, it doesn't look like it's going to be going that way. So it kind of sucks now in the era that we live. I know WWE, again, we were talking about protecting the wrestlers. I think that it's a great idea to protect the wrestlers, but sometimes they protect them too much and sometimes they don't protect them enough. It's really it's a double-edged sword here, right? Because you want to protect the talent, you want to have them for the future, but you also want to get them on the events. You also want to make sure they're healthy, but you don't want to take away from the in-ring action as that is. So it's very, very trying time for WWE right now. Not sure who is going to be the face of the company. They're bringing up NXT guys. AJ Styles is now up there, but they're having him be a workhorse. And AJ Styles has always been a workhorse. He's that kind of guy who's been a huge workhorse. He's been out there doing all the matches. He likes to wrestle. That's what his big thing is AJ Styles gets in there, he does the wrestling, and that's what he's best at. So you keep AJ Styles doing that, and that's the best thing that you can do for him. But then again, you have to risk, what if he gets injured, right? There's that off chance that he goes up for the phenomenal forearm, lands improperly, and gets injured. It could happen, and they really do want to protect their stars. And I know that, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the best way to sum this up. I honestly think that WWE is doing the right thing by protecting their investment, making sure their superstars are safe, and making sure that they can perform at a top level at the top shows. That's what they need to do. I just don't know that with what is happening with superstars getting injured at live events, if doing so many shows and doing all these live events is something that is worth it. I know that they make a ton of money at merchandise sales. The last live event I went to, house show, whatever you want to call it, we'll call it a house show because that's what I grew up with. The last house show that I went to buy a t-shirt, and there was a line out the door, down the hallway, of people trying to buy t-shirts. They were selling them. They were selling out of John Cena shirts, and he wasn't even there because he was injured. So there you go. They don't want to cut out those house shows. But again, you don't want to have your stars doing the high-risk maneuvers at a house show and getting injured. I think some of the styles of wrestling now have changed since the Attitude Era, since the even before that in the Golden Era. We know that the fast-paced action, the high-risk, the lucha style, the crash and burn, the instant gratification era, as we will call it, because that's all it is. It's because they want to please the fans. And you see that at indie shows a lot, where they do unnecessary moves to try and get over. I understand that it's a different time, it's a different place. Some promotions promote that, like PWG, and what they do is great. Sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's not enough. Who knows? Who am I to say what these guys can go out there and do? But it's just coming a point where I don't know that live events, and not necessarily that live events aren't necessary, which they are, I believe, in the grand scheme of things, just based off the merchandise sales alone. But I'm wondering if we need to come up with a different live event type schedule, because what they're doing with live events now, and I've seen this over and over and over, is that they have doing 2 live events the same day. They'll have half the roster go in one and half the roster go in another, just so they can do 2 live events in different parts of the United States. And I don't know if that's viably the best option. I know they're making it probably money hand over fist, but again, you're risking that superstar injury. What I think should happen is you should rotate the roster. Instead of doing 2 live events, you take half the roster does this one, and then half the roster does this one. And then maybe if you want to have the main eventers or that feud go on both shows, you can do that. But that's just a food for thought right there, because right now, in the injury era that we are, there's so many superstars that are getting injured, so many divas that are getting injured, and something has to give. When you put a guy like Bray Wyatt in the main event and he gets hurt, and then he can't even actually be in the main event, that's going to hurt your product in the long run. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this. How long do you think Bray Wyatt's going to be out? Do you think they need to change their policy on live events or the mini number of shows that they do? Or do you think the style of wrestling just needs to change? Or are we just getting into a weak generation where they want to protect their wrestlers, but they're not actually injured in the Attitude Era? They would probably wrestle through it. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, Tony Beats Guy, frag out.